This is Feliks Zemdegs, 121-time Rubik's Cube record holder and the greatest P-Cuber of all time. And this is Kevin Hayes, 21-time Rubik's Cube record holder and 6-time Rubik's Cube world champion. If it wasn't clear from the stats alone, these are two of the greatest P-Cubers of all time. For over 10 years now, they've been exchanging world records and championships back and forth, and in no other event was their competition closer than it was for the Civ 6 Rubik's Cube. This is the history of how Feliks Zemdegs and Kevin Hayes elevated Civ 6 to a new level, breaking multiple barriers and creating the greatest rivalry in cubing history. At the beginning of 2011, Feliks Zemdegs was already being considered one of the greatest cubers of all time. In just little over a year, he had broken the 303 record a total of 12 times, cementing himself as the face of cubing. Along with the 303 success, Zemdegs would also prove himself to be great at basically every other event he touched, and with 6x6 specifically, after breaking both the single and average continental records at his first competition, Zemdegs would go on to win 4 competitions in a row, before setting new 6x6 single and average world records in early 2011. But 7 months later, both of these records would be broken by quickly rising American speed cuber Kevin Hayes. Similarly to Feliks Zemdegs, Hayes was relatively new to cubing, but was quickly becoming one of the best in the world. After making a statement in his 2009 debut, Hayes would go on a tear through the rankings, going 6 best times in a row before setting his own Space 6 world records. Going into the 2011 Rubik's Cube World Championships, Hayes was slated to take home the gold. However, 1 month before the competition, Zemdegs would take back his world record single, going 156, making him the very first cuber to go under 2 minutes. To some, this was Zemdegs' way of showing that he was still in the Civ 6 conversation, and so going into Worlds, it was mainly going to be a contest between these two cubers, the single world record holder and the average world record holder. After going a 213 average in the first round, Zemdegs would go on to finals as the #1 qualifier. Hayes would come in as a pretty distant second, going 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Come finals, and all eyes were on these two cubers, and 2 solves in, it seemed like Hayes was going to take the victory. But after a bad pop in the 3rd solve, Hayes would end up getting a DNF, and Feliks Zemdegs would become the new world champion. The next time that these two cubers would compete against each other would be at the 2013 Rubik's Cube World Championships, and during these 2 years, a few things happened. Kevin Hayes would come back from his poor performance at World 2011 to break the Civ 6 record a total of 5 times, bringing the single from 156 to 149, and the average from 209 to a jaw-dropping 155. Zemdegs, on the other hand, was continuing to prove himself as the best all-around speed cuber in the world, breaking records in 3x3, 4x4, and 5x5. The one event he just couldn't seem to get a record in, however, being 6x6, posting times 5 seconds slower than Hayes in both single and average. So going into World 2013, Hayes was once again touted to place first, this time however being a much heavier favorite than the last. And these predictions would come true. In round 1, he would go over 9 seconds faster than Zemdegs, and in the final he would win by an absurd margin of 14 seconds, leaving Zemdegs in 4th place due to a pop in the 3rd solve. So that's the story up until 2013. After trading world records and world championship golds, Hayes was able to finish on top. But in order to be the best in the world, you can't be satisfied by just that, and judging from what happened afterwards, Hayes still had more to prove. Just 1 week after World 2013, Hayes would compete again, and here he would break his Civ 6 average world record by 4 seconds, and he would break his single world record by an incredible 9 seconds. But right after this, suddenly, things would come to a halt, and no new Civ 6 records would be broken for quite a long period of time. That is, until 2 weeks later, when Hayes broke his already ridiculous single world record by 7 seconds to go a 133. 1 month later, almost in retaliation, Zemdegs would break Hayes' Civ 6 average world record by 4 seconds to go a 147. So for the first time since 2011, each cuber held one Civ 6 record apiece, which then perfectly led the two into the 2015 Rubik's Cube World Championships. Going into this competition, for the first time ever, there really wasn't a favorite. The two were just so evenly matched that it was impossible to pick sides. One thing was for certain though, which was that both would come into World at their very best, and this is exactly what happened. In the very first round of World 2015, Zemdegs would nearly break his Civ 6 world record average, qualifying for finals with a 147. This incredible performance, however, would only be in the spotlight for a few minutes, as Hayes would subsequently go a 146 average, breaking Zemdegs' week-old record. So going into finals, the pressure was at an all-time high, and it was essentially anyone's race. Despite the nerves, Zemdegs would amazingly post another 147 average. Under any other circumstances, this probably would have been enough to take the gold. That is, until Hayes broke the world record again with a 145 average to win the competition. At this point, it was 2 championships in a row for Hayes, and although Zemdegs was able to get the 6v6 world record occasionally, it seems that for the most part, Hayes would prove himself to be the best 6v6 solver in the world. This, however, is where things would take a turn. A few months later, Zemdegs would break the 6v6 world record average with a 143.83. 7 months later, and he would shave off a couple attempts to go a 143.21. This clearly inspired Kevin Hayes, as 3 months later at the Asian Championships, he would have his best performance in over a year to break both the 6v6 single and average world records by a second. Now, this is where things get crazy. 1 month after that, Zemdegs would break the average world record by 5 seconds. The month after that, he would just barely break the single world record too, and for the first time since 2011, hold both 6v6 world records. But Zemdegs was just getting started. At his first competition in 2017, Zemdegs would break the single record by 5 seconds and the average record by 3. A few months later, Hayes would momentarily take back his average record to barely get ahead of Zemdegs, but just a week later, Zemdegs would not only bring his average record down by 6 seconds, but drop his own single world record by an additional 7. So just to give a quick recap, in only 2 years, Feliks Zemdegs would bring the 6v6 single world record from a 133 to a 120, and the 6v6 average world record from a 145 to a 128. Hayes, on the other hand, while still improving, would be at a very distant second, with a best single of 129 and a best average of 134. And so once again, it was time for the Rubik's Cube Championships, where for the first time ever, Zemdegs was the heavy favorite. And this would hold true in the first round, with Zemdegs qualifying first in another world record, leaving Hayes nearly 20 seconds behind. After this dominant performance, the upcoming results seemed clear, which was that for the first time since 2011, Zemdegs would become the 6v6 world champion. Hayes had put on an incredible run for the last few years, but now it was time for Zemdegs to show why he was the greatest cuber of all time. But in one of the greatest moments of his entire career, Hayes would pull off the upset and beat Zemdegs in the finals by just over a second. The 2017 World Championships would end up being the finale of this legendary rivalry, as Max Park would go on to dominate the world record scene from then on. Hayes did get extremely close to getting the world record again in 2019, but he would end up falling short by just a tenth of a second, and that brings us to the present, with both keepers still being some of the best in the world, but comfortably behind the world record. In retrospect, the rivalry between Kevin Hayes and Feliks Zemdegs was extraordinary, and may never be replicated in keeping ever again. Over the course of 6 years, they dropped the record a combined 29 times, with Hayes bringing in 15 of those records, and Zemdegs bringing in the other 14. On top of that, for 4 world championships in a row, every single 6v6 round had someone either named Hayes or Zemdegs leading the pack. But what made this rivalry truly special was the incredible sportsmanship and friendship between the two competitors. When one would have an incredible performance, the other would be the first to congratulate, and vice versa. They each genuinely wanted the best for each other, and they pushed each other towards greatness. This showcase of respect had massive effects on the cubing community, as it gave young cubers an example to look up to. Kevin Hayes and Feliks Zemdegs showed everyone that competition didn't need to have malice to be great, and that in its entirety, speedcubing and breaking records was a collective effort. Truly and undoubtedly, it's the greatest rivalry in cubing history.